Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeremy, and I am the host of 88.7 Harrisonburg, FM, and WXJM.org's Triple Threat. As always, I am joined by my good friends and co-host Haden and Shane. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
Doing all right?
I'm doing great. I skipped all my classes today, so...
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. I haven't spent enough time studying for my accounting test tomorrow, so I'm phenomenal, too.
I'm so glad to hear that we're all having an incredible day.
Yeah.
On a no bones day, no less.
I mean, but quickly before we get into the sports, I'd just like to wish everyone a happy Halloween. That was 2 days ago now. I hope you had a good Halloween weekend and a good Halloween.
Jeremy, what were you for Halloween?
Oh, 2 days, because Tuesday,
it's Tuesday now.
Sorry.
I got it's crazy like
Jeremy,
that.
what were you for Halloween?
I was Mario, you know?
That's wild.
Gotta represent.
Represent who exactly?
Oh, you know, the Italian culture.
And
Chris Pratt, especially.
Oh, Chris Pratt. I mean, he is a true Italian. You know, he's also Garfield now.
Is he?
You know.
He is Garfield, isn't he?
And
Did you hear about that,
he
Shane?
likes lasagna. No. Yeah, Chris Pratt is going to voice Garfield now.
Cool.
All right. Well, that's super exciting. I'm going to jump into sports now.
Yeah, JMU Sports Report. Let's get started with that.
Report. I'm going to start off. So the basketball season is starting up very, very soon. They came out with the all CAA preseason teams for both the men's and the women's. Get to the women's in a set. Actually, you know what? We'll do that now. The men's and the women's. They also came out with projections for where they would finish in the CAA.
Okay.
So the men's team was projected to finish 4th in the CAA, and they also had 2 players named to the All-CAA preseason team, with Vado Morse and Caa Molson being named to the preseason All-CAA team.
Hey.
Vado Morse was named to the this All-CAA second team, and Caa Molson was like an honorable mention in there.
Okay.
Now on the women's side, they were projected to go 3rd in the CAA, with another two players being named to All-CAA preseason team, Kiki Jefferson and Peyton McDaniel. Kiki Jefferson was named to the first team, and Peyton McDaniel was named to the second team. It's pretty awesome. Like I said, these seasons start, I believe, next week, or maybe like a little more than next week. So,
I mean, either way, we'll be talking about it next episode or next show.
Maybe.
What are the odds that... I don't know how March Madness works. Like, where do they have to finish in order to end up in that?
So, we are generally in a weaker division.
Yeah.
So last year... So the winner of each division gets an automatic bid. So one team from the CAA will be in March Madness. Last year, on the men's side, the team that won, Drexel, was a 16 seed. So they lost. They played the number 1 seed. They were like last 4 kind of team. If that makes sense, because it's not as strong, but they have to let them in.
Gotcha.
So that's probably where they'll end up if they make it at all.
All right.
Football team, they improved to 7-1 on the year, 5-1 in conference after absolutely dismantling Elon, 45-21. In the game, quarterback Cole Johnson threw a school record 6 touchdowns. And because of his 6 touchdowns, that garnered him the CAA Offensive Player of the Week and the CFPA National Performer of the Week awards. That's awesome.
So impressive.
So CFPA National Performer, that's like all of college football FCS division. So he's the best player all of Division 1A, which is, it's super cool.
So like out of everyone that played that week, he got like the biggest honor.
Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. I got more notes on Cole Johnson.
Go for it.
As I've mentioned before, from the Virginia Beach area, went to Cox High School, and just doing a little research on him, he holds the record for touchdowns and passing yards all time for high school. And my trainer was very hype because he posted all this stuff on his story. And it's weird because he's listed as like a redshirt senior or something like that.
He's a sixth-year player.
Sixth-year player.
That's because last year didn't count for eligibility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's weird but it says he's a graduate student on his profile. So I don't know how that works.
Maybe he's going to graduate school here.
Yeah, because that's what it said, but it lists him as a senior. I don't know how the whole red shirt and everything works.
Eligibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just.
So he's a double Duke. If what's on the website's correct. So good for him.
All right. With the win, the Dukes rise back into the top 3, settling at the 3rd spot, up 2 from last week in the FCS Top 25 rankings. Next week, they play Campbell at home for the homecoming game. Should be an easy one. That's usually how they schedule it.
I won't be there that weekend because I have a hockey tournament. That's unfortunate.
That's all right. Next week, right? Right? All right, whatever.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. The men's soccer team is currently 4-1 on the season and 5-2 in their conference after winning their one game this week versus Drexel 1-0. With the win, JMU clinched a spot in the CAA tournament. So for those who don't know, the CAA tournament for most of these sports that I'll be talking about are a 4-team, top 4 in the division. So they've clinched top 4 spot. They have one more game to go. That's gonna finish their regular season. That's against Northeastern on Saturday. But they've clinched a spot in the playoffs. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which team is this?
This is the men's soccer team.
Men's soccer team.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, they've been great all year.
They've
not a surprise.
I mean, but it's still good. You get that the sensate. Nah, that's not the right word. The satisfaction. Thank you. Thanks for helping me out there.
No problem.
Yeah, the satisfaction of actually clinching there, But
they've been really good defensively all year.
Yeah.
Because it always seems like a player gets Defensive Player of the Week for them.
Actually, speaking of that, thank you for transitioning me into that ever so nicely. Tyler Clegg was named the CAA Defensive Player of the Week for the second time this season. So he was named back on December 8th. Not December.
December.
That's in the future. He was named back on October, on the 18th of. I didn't write down the month, but it was on the 18th.
It's on the 18th of a month.
It was on the 18th of a month. I think it was like September or something.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. It definitely ended in a burr.
That really doesn't. That narrowed it down just a little bit.
That's what I know. It's super exciting.
August burr.
What? August burr? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Anyway, continuing on.
All right then, Shane. The women's cross country team, they went to the CAA championship on Saturday, and they finished 4th of 9 teams there. As always, Miranda Stanhope
Killing it.
went off. She finished 2nd place overall, with a time of 21 minutes, 44 seconds, and 4 milliseconds. So that's insane. 2nd overall. Team finished 4th. That's a very good finish. Actually, this is the 2nd year in a row that Miranda Stanhope has finished 2nd overall in the CAA championship.
That's good for her, but I wonder how frustrating that must be for her. There's only one person for her to pass to be first.
It's got to be frustrating, but it's still so awesome that she's
still so
2nd.
impressive.
Yeah. I mean, along with that, she was the only member of the Dukes this year to be named to the All-CAA team.
I mean, in previous, not to discredit the other girls on the team, but it seems like she was finishing a lot farther ahead than most of the other ones.
She was generally finishing first. Usually there was someone else, at least one other Duke in the top 50.
Yeah.
Which is generally what they do the cutoff for a really good run at.
Yeah.
Top 50. She was always
top
20 as far as I can remember. You don't have to fact check me on that, but I'm not certain on that. I'm pretty sure she finished top 20 on almost everything we've covered this season. And usually there was at least one other Duke in the top 50, sometimes more. But she was doing incredible all year. Unfortunately, I don't think she ever finished first overall, but I mean,
she's got time.
I mean, she's a junior. She's got
one more year to do it. I believe in her.
Yeah, I believe so. She's been killing it all year. But their next competition is at the NCAA Regional Championships, and that's on November 12th. So they just finished the CAA Championships. Now they move on to the NCAA Regionals.
Excited to see what she does there.
Absolutely. Then the field hockey team, they actually finished their regular season this week. Finished it with a record of 11-6, and they swept conference play going 6-0, with their last game being a 3-2 win at William and Mary on Friday. The field hockey team is, as we know, one of the sports. There's a bunch of sports that update their rankings and come out with all the news the day after our show. So Tuesdays, Wednesdays sometimes, usually Tuesdays. Field hockey's one of them. And there was a lot of stuff for last week, so I'm going to run through that really quickly.
Yeah.
They improved, the field hockey team moved from 25 to 23 in the top 25 poll. And also the coach of the field hockey team, Christy Morgan, had her contract extended through January of 2026. That's going to be a theme.
Time.
There were a bunch of contract extensions over the week for a bunch of different coaches. And, finally, last but not least, I like to hold this one pretty high up there, because as Shane kind of sort of predicted a little bit, there were 2 players named to the CAA Player of the Week for the second week in a row in the field hockey team. This time, Eveline Zwager, she was named the CAA Co-Player of the Week, and Cassidy Strittmatter named CAA Rookie of the Week for the second week in a row. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you correctly predicted Eveline
Zwager.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say
Moves like Zwager. She had 4 goals in one game. If that didn't get you CAA Player of the Week, I don't know what does.
I'm kind of curious, though. Who's the other co-player?
I mean, I don't know.
What did they do?
Wasn't a Duke. Doesn't
Wasn't
matter.
a Duke.
Well, I'm just saying, what did that person do?
Yeah, to deserve to be on par with 4 goals and then scoring 3 goals in within 7 minutes.
Right.
It's insane.
It is insane. So I was just going to give you some props there for being correct.
I was looking
Good job,
through.
Shane.
Good job, Shane.
Thank
Snaps.
you. And good job, Zwager.
One day I'll get it. One day I'll get snaps.
So, as I mentioned earlier, this
I had it for a second there.
You had it for a
That's all
second.
that matters.
probably wasn't able to be picked up by the
No,
radio.
not at all.
But it's fine. You can
It's
hear
fine.
it.
It's Jeremy can vouch. That's all that matters.
Right. So, like I mentioned, there's the CAA playoffs. They finished the regular season. The top 4 teams in the division make it. The women's field hockey team, number 1 seed.
6-0.
6-0 in the conference, number 1 seed. They are playing the number 4 seed in the conference Northeastern on Friday, and if they win that game, they will play the winner of Delaware versus William and Mary on Sunday.
Ooh, facing William and Mary again.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
It's either Delaware or William and Mary.
Fair enough.
So whoever wins that game, assuming we win, which I mean,
We should.
obviously,
Zwager's going to get another 4 goals.
then we would be playing the winner of Delaware, William and Mary. Then I mentioned earlier that there were a bunch of contract extensions. So there's 2 more real quick. The women's golf coach, Tommy Baker, received a contract extension through the 2026 season. And also the JMU lacrosse head coach, Shelley Clays, got a contract extension through the 2026 season.
Good for them.
So
Congratulations.
I just want to, there's a little bit of a pattern through the 2026 season, right?
Yeah.
I'm really curious if this has something to do with the move to the Sun Belt Conference, seeming like it's more and more of a certainty. The board of visitors approved a plan to move JMU to the Sun Belt Conference over the week. The news was supposed to come out during the week. It didn't. There's no official announcement, but the other 3 teams that JMU was grouped with all did move to the Sun Belt, which makes it seem like it's going to come any day now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, these contract extensions also had me thinking maybe that has something to do with it. Because I saw somewhere that they completely joined by 2023. So I guess they want to have them locked down through the transition period.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm reading too far into this or anything.
What you say is making sense to me, so I think your speculation is justified.
Thank you, Shane.
I mean, also, got to keep the good coaches,
Absolutely.
If it works, don't fix or if it ain't broken,
Don't fix it.
Don't fix it. There we go.
We're doing great with the articulation today.
Hey.
Another team that finished their season was the women's soccer team. They finished with a 9-8-1 overall record and 6-3 in conference. And they won their final 2 games of the year, 2-0 versus Elon on Thursday, and that's where they clinched the playoffs. Get into that in a bit. And 2-1 on Sunday versus Delaware. They finished their season. I mentioned their final 2 games were wins. Scratch that. They actually won their final 4 games. So, impressive 4-game win streak going into the playoffs. Leading the way for the team was goalkeeper Alexandra Bloom, who won CAA Defensive Player of the Week.
Is it Bloom or Blom?
It's got 2 O's, so I'm assuming it's Bloom. Maybe I'm wrong in pronouncing that, but...
Or Blum. It's a Swedish name, so who knows?
I could be completely wrong, but
Yeah.
that's just how I read it. I didn't see any... Alexandra, feel free to correct me at any time.
Or if anyone knows how it's actually pronounced, feel free to reach out. We apologize, and we want to make sure we're getting their names right and doing them justice here.
Yeah, so she won the CAA Defensive Player of the Week in the final week of the season. And as I mentioned, they head into the CAA Finals as the 3 seed. So they're going to play the number 2 seed team, which in this case is Hofstra, on Thursday. And then assuming they win, which absolutely they should,
Yep.
they would either play the number 1 seed UNCW or the number 4 seed Northeastern.
So I would like to add on...
That's on Sunday, my bad.
Do you have anything more to add for the soccer team?
Nope, go for it.
So I would like to shout out Amanda Atanasi. Looking at her resume has blown me away. I mentioned last week how she's only a freshman, and she's in the team lead for scoring. She had an assist this past weekend. And just looking at her high school resume, it's insane. Because of how is a freshman doing all this? Well, in her high school, she set the record for most goals in a season and named Player of the Year her freshman season.
That's awesome.
Was named All-State and All-South Jersey in 2018. So her, I'm guessing maybe sophomore year, broke the school record for goals in a career in 2019 with 59. So she broke it, I'm assuming her junior year, and then was named Player of the Year and All-State in 2020.
All right.
So this was her high school resume in New Jersey. So it was all right, this kind of explains why she's already off to this great start as a freshman this year.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So shout out to Amanda Atanasi. Just keep it up. It's impressive.
Oh, yeah, head into the playoffs.
She's only 5 feet tall. It's just, she's going out there.
All right, that's awesome. You got anything else for that, or are we good?
We're good on that.
All right. So, what was that, Haden?
No, I was just stacking my feet, trying to figure out how many feet tall 5 feet are. I'm up to 2 right now.
Did you get an answer?
I'm still struggling to find the third, a third foot.
I understand now.
Yeah.
Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
I believe in you. You can do it.
Hopefully I'll have an answer by the end of the show.
The women's swimming and diving team, they have been struggling in the beginning of the season, winless through 2 meets, but you know what? That did not stop sophomore Maddie Yeager from being named the CAA Co-Diver of the Week for a performance at the last meet last week. I like what I did there. It's like a little, a little alliteration, assonance,
Good for you, yeah.
Thank you. I really...
Congrats.
Thank
Congrats.
you.
And congrats to Yeager.
Congrats, of course. Finally, last but not least, women's volleyball team. The women's volleyball team, currently 15-5 on the season and 9-3 in conference. They swept Northeastern in 6 sets, so that's 3-0, 3-0 in their 2 games at home this weekend. Currently, the Dukes are tied for first place in the conference with Towson, who they actually play this week.
Ooh.
So they have 2 weeks at home.
Exciting matchup.
2 games at home against Towson. And that's this week at home. Tied for first. This is a massive... There's only... I have to double check again, but I believe there's only 4 games left in the season. 2 against Towson and then 2 more next week, and then we go to the playoffs. So winning these 2 games, or at least splitting them, is super duper important.
Well, I know I said last week, like, the numbers indicate they are very good at back-to-back. Like, they will get 1 victory at least, because they are undefeated after a loss this season.
Right.
So I can guarantee you they will get at least 1.
Right, but this is gonna be a tough matchup this weekend. It's also a super duper important one for seeding in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So like I
Just
said,
another note: past 5 victories have been sweeps.
All right.
So they've been on a hot streak. So let's hopefully they can keep it going against Townsend.
Yeah. Another huge part of their victories this weekend, senior Savannah Marshall was named CAA Defensive Player of the Week. She had a total of 26 digs in the 2 games against Northeastern this weekend.
And Savannah Marshall is also from my hometown, the Hampton Roads area, so very happy to see that, from Kellum High School, a Virginia Beach native.
All right.
So always got to shout out my other fellow Hampton Roads people.
So they currently have a 3-game win streak heading into, like I mentioned, this massive weekend series against Towson. This is good luck to them. This is going to be huge for playoff implications. I'm not sure if they've clinched yet. I'm pretty sure they have, but seeding is super important. If you can get that 1 seed, it's going to make a huge difference as opposed to playing in that 2-3 game.
Mm-hmm. And another note, Sophia Davis has been killing it by surpassing 200 kills on the year.
All right.
Did you see what I did there?
I did.
Yeah,
it took me a second, but I got it.
I'm proud of that.
You should be.
So dumb, but I think it's hilarious.
Last week I was super impressed with our CAA Player of the Weeks. This week, we beat it. Last week, we had 6.
6? We had 7?
This week, we have 7.
Hey.
That is an insane number.
Yeah.
Keep it up. That is super exciting. We have Cole Johnson for football CAA Offensive Player of the Week. Tyler Clegg, men's soccer CAA Defensive Player of the Week. Alexandra Bloom, women's soccer CAA Defensive Player of the Week. Eveline Swagger. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Eveline Swagger, women's field hockey CAA Co-Player of the Week. Cassidy Strittmatter, women's field hockey CAA Rookie of the Week. Maddie Yeager, women's swim and dive CAA Co-Diver of the Week. And Savannah Marshall, women's volleyball CAA Defensive Player of the Week. That is awesome that we had that many names. I'm so excited. Playoff season for many of these sports is right around the corner. Let's keep up the good work. Let's go Dukes.
Go Dukes.
Haden, would you like to go and talk about your favorite sport, which is baseball?
Oh, okay. Difference. I was thinking of cup stacking, but
That's a good one too.
that is a good one.
Dude, we did that in my elementary school. They made us do that.
Uh-huh.
I got pretty good at that, I'm not gonna lie.
Were you? Were you nationally ranked?
I was not nationally
Not good
ranked,
enough then.
but I was like definitely top.
not
I was
good
definitely
enough.
like top 3 in my school.
Not
You
good
know.
enough.
If Jeremy really tried, I believe he could be ranked nationally.
Thank you, Shane. That's the spirit
You
I
say you
wanted.
didn't put enough effort in.
Hey,
But
you know.
What if he didn't want to put that much effort in?
Right. Who wants to be known as the cup stacking guy?
I mean, I think that's a pretty good party trick.
Anyway, moving on. Baseball, what's going on with that?
What's going on with baseball? There's this little known thing called the World Series.
Yo, what's that?
The Fall Classic,
One
maybe?
more time?
The World Series?
Ah, I understand now.
Okay, yeah. That's going on.
Is it?
Cool,
Yeah.
how's that going?
Well, Game 5 just ended. And it's still going on. So your prediction of Braves in 4 is incorrect, Shane.
Already, yeah, unfortunately.
But Jeremy's Braves in 6 is still alive and well.
You said 7, right?
He said.
I said Astros in 7. And so.
I mean, but like all the Braves need to do is win tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Tonight, tomorrow, whatever.
The Astros need to win tomorrow and tonight.
Yeah.
And I think they can do it.
I do too. I think it's going to be a really close series, especially without Charlie Morton.
Yeah. Well, the starters, though, both the Brave starters are on full rest. Astros, not so much. So that's like kind of like the whole narrative going around right now.
You
know, fun stuff.
Super fun.
Dusty Baker changed the lineup.
What?
And the Astros got hits? It's crazy. Not Yordan Alvarez, though.
Oh.
He only has 1 hit in the entire World Series, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like the
ALCS MVP.
Yeah.
A starting pitcher, Zach Greinke, has more hits than Yordan Alvarez.
Hey, we love to see that, though.
Zach Greinke has had 2 at-bats.
Sounds like he's the better player.
He is. Zach Greinke is literally the best batter in World Series history.
They need to build a monument of Zach Greinke. Elect him to the Hall of Fame. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He already was before this, but like, I love that man so much. He's so weird and just.
No wonder why you like him.
Whoa. All right.
Anyways, any fun baseball news, Jeremy?
Oh, dude, there were like a lot of awards that came out.
Those were nominees.
They were just nominees. I thought.
What award?
The
that
Roberto
one. Never
Clemente.
mind. I was thinking of like they announced like the Gold Glove and Silver Slugger.
No.
Finalists,
the Nelson Cruz won the Roberto Clemente Player of the Year award, which is like best player off the field.
Yeah, it's good for him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
He's a
then
great guy.
we had the Comeback and Player of the Year awards announced. Gerald Posey. Or
better known as Buster.
Better known as Buster Posey, won the NL Comeback Player of the Year, and Trey Mancini won the AL Comeback Player of the Year.
As he should.
2 really good stories.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Good for them. Both All-Stars, I think.
What?
I think they were both All-Stars this year, too.
Yeah, I think so.
Good for them.
That's awesome, yeah. The Padres hired the Athletics manager.
Yep, Melvin.
Right from their bench. They were just like, "You're mine now," and that's what happened.
That's what happened.
What does that mean for the A's?
For the A's, well, I mean, he's kind of like been a rock for them. He's been with them for the past 11 years, I believe. They were in the playoffs 6 or 7 of those, so you know, like, you can kind of argue he's a pretty good manager. Those A's teams aren't like super loaded with talent every year, and so a lot of people feel like this is a signaling by the A's that they're going to rebuild and trade away the Mats, Olsen and Chapman, and some of their starting pitching, and try to like do a retool that the plus their division isn't too great.
I mean, yeah, now's the time to strike, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I don't think they have like the prospect pool to like compete with the Mariners right now, obviously. And the Rangers aren't very great. The Angels are kind of middle of the pack. They're kind of where the A's are at. And then the Astros kind of depends on if they re-sign Correa or not, honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
It'll be an interesting division next year for sure.
Shohei Ohtani got the Commissioner's Award. Not gonna lie, I don't know what that is.
Neither do I.
Do you want to look that up real quick?
I don't think it really matters.
Okay. It's an award he got.
It's probably for like best player or something.
So what makes the Pacific Division bad or interesting?
I mean, it's gonna be a bunch of bad teams, and it's gonna be like maybe 1 or 2 teams competing for the top.
What's the division called?
The AL West?
West, all right. So it sounds similar to the Pacific Division in hockey because they both pretty bad, mostly rebuilding teams.
It's not.
It's not. It's
bad.
Just they're going to be middling. Bunch of middling teams.
It's that, and like it completely depends on what the Astros of Carlos Correa, right?
Yeah.
Because that guy is a shortstop, which is incredibly important for your infield defense, and he's one of the best offensive shortstops in the league right now, and he's super young. And so if you're losing a guy like that, then that kind of is like, okay, we have this massive hole in our infield that we don't really have anyone that can replace him. And he's a franchise player. He's one of the few remaining guys.
For the Astros?
What?
Yeah, currently on the Astros.
All right.
He's one of the few remaining guys from the sign stealing scandal.
Yeah.
And he's just an amazing player. And if you lose him and he goes to, I think the one I always see is Detroit.
He wants to go to Detroit?
Do you not want to go to Detroit?
I just Detroit teams usually have a bad stigma to them. Well, at least in the other Big Four, or in hockey and football, it's just like one of those things where it's like, really, right now?
No, they're a pretty good baseball team.
So Detroit's good.
Usually, not right now.
They were for a while. They had a good little dynasty going.
But
they didn't win that much. They didn't win that many championships, but they won a lot of games.
They're about to go back into that dynasty era. They have a lot of great young starting pitchers.
Gotcha.
Who are now in the big leagues. They have Spencer Torkelson, who is the first overall pick coming up right now. A lot of great outfield prospects. And you got this shortstop who's really good. And you're set, really, honestly.
Is that what you think?
Yeah, I think if Detroit gets Correa, I think they're the best team in the AL Central.
Better than the Sox, the White Sox?
Yeah.
All right.
And where do they finish this year?
I think they were third in their division.
But didn't make it.
No.
No, they didn't make the playoffs.
They weren't really in contention with the playoffs.
I think they're better than Cleveland for sure. White Sox, I think they're losing a few pieces. So.
Fair.
Yeah.
All right. That's interesting. It's fun to hear.
Fun to hear. But yeah.
Fun
stuff.
I'll give you the option here. You mentioned you wanted to get more into the off-the-field stuff this week.
The CBA and all that?
The CBA and the qualifying offer dropping. I'm not sure if you want to get into that now or if you want to save that for later.
What time is it?
It's
12:30
right now.
I mean, I can do a quick rundown and then...
All right. Before you do that, I'd like to remind everyone that you are listening to WXJM 88.7 Harrisonburg and WXJM.org. This is Triple Threat. I am Jeremy, joined by my friends and co-hosts Shane and Haden. You may continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. So, yeah. Trying to figure out how to start this. So, all the four major sports, right, have a collective bargaining agreement that is set to expire. Over the past few years, there's been a lot of animosity, I guess, for lack of a better word, between the owners and the players for multiple reasons. The quality of the minor leaguers, conditions, just the way that they are kind of abusing the young talent in general, where you'll see guys like Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. for the next however many years they're two of the best players at their position, and they're locked up for a combined $102 million for the next, I think it's 10 years together, and that's just ridiculous. Especially in hockey, that kind of makes sense a little bit, right?
Well, because
they're usually smaller contracts.
Well, yeah,
right?
because they cut it off because at some point it's especially with the hard cap, it was ridiculous because you would sign these 17, 15, 12-year deals, and the AAV would still only be around 6 or 5, so that's how they got around the salary cap.
Yeah.
And then the league was like, this is ridiculous, so we got to shorten it.
Well, in baseball, what they're doing right now is they're taking these kids who are coming out of the Dominican Republic, right? And they're finally making it to the big leagues. And, money now is better than, it's not better than, but it's money now will set them up for life, no matter how much they get. And so they're taking these 10-year extensions that are locking them up with, ridiculously team-friendly deals. When these guys, if they hit free agency at their normal age, they would be making close to $400 million.
It's a lot of money.
A lot of money. And they're combined, these two franchise-type players are locked up for $100 million. And so that's kind of one of the things that is probably going to be addressed in the CBA. Little stuff like the DH and all that. And it's the owners are being greedy.
Oh, yeah, that's
always
owners for you.
And it seems like they're going to lock out players.
Fun.
That's generally the vibe from what I've read.
So you think there's going to be a lockout next season?
Probably, I don't know if it's going to be for the entire season.
It's almost certain there's going to be a lockout.
Of some sorts.
So I mentioned the deadline last week really quickly. It is December 1st at 11:59. That's not going to happen. I can virtually guarantee you that is not. They're not going to reach an agreement by December 1st, 11:59. There will be a lockout. Question is, will they be forced to miss games? And if so, how many? I don't know if you think they're going to have... I think they're going to have to miss, You don't think?
I don't think they're going to miss any games.
You don't think they're going to miss any games?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I think the way the media is kind of handling, baseball media in general, is handling these types of things, is very much pro-player right now.
Good. That's how it should be.
It's been pro-player for a little bit now, where I think a lot of the top writers are very much hitting on the owners, and this is an owner's issue, and this is the owner's fault. This is not on the players, and as Jeremy said, as it should be, and I lost my train of thought.
Billionaires versus millionaires.
It's that, but no, it's 100% on the owners.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
They're the ones who should be making the the concessions for these players. I mean, they're not asking for much.
Right. And I mean, you see that kind of thing in almost every sport. Where in general, the public and the media tend to side with the owners because they are better at getting their word out. They get it out faster, they get it out in a more concise and understandable manner, and the players either don't respond, or they respond poorly, or they kind of lash out angrily kind of thing, and that's not going to sway anyone to your side. It's super great to see or hear that people are already on the player's side, and that's gonna help them a lot more, because in general, players are going to get screwed over a lot more in these CBAs than the owners are.
For sure.
That's just usually how it goes. It's hard to reach an agreement when you don't have a bunch of people who are really good at that kind of stuff writing it, The players don't have the depth of knowledge in that kind of field that some of the owners do.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's not even the only thing that's going on right now, too. Outside of the CBA, right now there's a lawsuit filed against Major League Baseball and the MLB owners over minor league pay. And the prime example in one of the big articles that came out today was they're literally using a tweet from the Mets owner as a central part of their evidence of they're completely not paying them enough. I think it was draft picks were worth 5 times their value, their slot value, which can be anywhere from $8 million to $500,000 or $50,000. But I mean, 5 times that, and you're under slot, giving players less than that slot value and not paying them at all. It's just not a good look.
Right.
Not a good look.
Yeah, no, it isn't.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's just I'm not optimistic, because whenever you're going against the billionaires have all the leverage, so it's just going to be hard to see. It's just hard for me to see it getting much better for the players.
I mean, I think public perception definitely has an impact on that, especially the way with some of these with the sticky stuff, right, and the foreign substances. There wasn't a big deal, and then a big article came out in The Athletic, and then JT Realmuto, catcher for the Phillies, is one of the best catchers in the league, took a stance on it, and everybody was coming out and hey, this has gone too far, and then MLB completely cracked down on it. It's been against the rules forever, but they're just now cracking down on it.
What do you think is going to be the result of the CBA?
What do you mean?
What do you think is going to happen?
Any big differences?
Yeah.
I think the DH is going to be league-wide.
What's DH?
Designated hitter.
Okay.
Because right now, pitchers hit in the National League. I don't think that's going to be a thing anymore.
Aw.
Yeah, you lose your fun Zach Greinke types, but I mean, it's just better for long-term health and extending careers in general. You have that. I think foreign substances are going to be allowed, like sticky stuff.
Really?
Oh, okay.
I think it's going to be very
like
It's going to be
regulated?
very regulated. Like, this is exactly what you need to use, and then that way, no one's going past that. Everyone can get that extra grip that they want and need, and there's no tomfoolery about. And I'm trying to think what else. I think there's gonna be either a floor or a cap.
You think the players are going to want to implement a cap?
I think if a floor comes, a cap's gonna have to come.
See, here's the thing, right? So, the cap is a very owner thing.
Yeah.
Because that lets them save money, and
Mhm.
it kind of gives them a reason to pay the players less.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a cap in baseball because the players would. No player in their right mind would agree to that unless it comes with a million other benefits that super outweigh the drop.
That's
in
why there's
income.
gonna be a floor. Like the cap. I'm not saying the cap. Like right now, the soft cap that they have, which is the luxury tax, is like $212 million. It's gonna exceed that. I think the cap would sit around like 220, 250 range. But there needs to be a floor.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to get a floor is with a cap.
And Jeremy, when you say the players would never allow that, but you have to realize the owners, multi-billionaires, have more leverage. Like they can outweigh the players.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It needs for the players to agree to a cap. It needs to come with other benefits.
It needs to come with a floor.
They need
Yeah.
to sweeten the deal with something that the players really want.
Yeah.
That they would say, "Hey, I understand I'm going to be making less money, but it's worth it because of X, Y, Z."
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that the minor leaguers only the minimum is what $50,000.
50,000?
It's probably less.
No, it's less than that. Here,
There's
I'll have
is
to
there
look it up.
no?
I don't think there's a minimum.
Because for the NHL, the least revenue out of the Big Four, their minimum for an AHL guy is $750K.
No, there's people in the minors get paid so much.
Oh
less
no,
than
they
Yeah, I
get
know, that's what I'm
paid
saying.
way below poverty level.
That's what I'm saying. How can the least revenue for any franchise be paying their minor league players this much more?
Right.
Because they definitely have the revenue to pay them more. It's just they just don't want to save money.
That's exactly it. You hit the hammer right on nail right on the head. You know.
Because there's no argument because NHLers or AHLers, the minor league, they're getting $750K. There's no excuse for them to be paying this cheaply.
Absolutely, you're right.
Just for general why there needs to be a floor. The Dodgers, right? They spent the most money in all of baseball last year.
Mhm.
Spent $282 million in estimated payroll. The Cleveland Guardians now is what they're called. Spent $51 million.
Right.
Next year, the Pirates, if they don't make any roster moves at all, they're projected to have a payroll of $43 million. There needs to be a floor.
Yeah.
And I think the only way the players are going to get this floor is with a cap. And that's why I think there's going to be a cap.
All right.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. It's just legal negotiations and stuff. It's never that simple.
No.
There's going to be a bunch of you get a floor if and only if, blah, blah, blah. And then we get 10 other things that you definitely don't want. But, I mean, look at this shiny new thing. That's just always how it is. Kind of sucks, but it's life,
It is life, yes.
You got anything else for that?
No.
No?
We can talk about arbitration and all that next.
You want to do that next week?
We can do that next
All
week.
right.
That's a lot.
I know that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole thing
Yeah.
on its own.
Yeah.
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 It's
You want to
complicated.
move on to basketball or football?
I'll move on to football. I don't have that much for basketball this week. It was just, I can do basketball real quick. It was just a bunch of games. Really, beginning of the season. You can't take away a lot of it from it right now. Jazz are the best team. Actually, the Bulls are currently the best team in the league. They're 6-1. The Jazz were the last undefeated team. They have lost since. They're 5-1. But you can't really take much stock into the first 10 games. Teams are still getting to know each other. They're getting that chemistry together. It's a long season. They have so much more time. It'll even out. Good teams will come back. Like the Lakers are struggling a little bit. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be perfectly fine. I have no doubts about that. They'll come back. They'll do their thing. You gotta give it some time. Water always finds its level, kind of thing.
You know what else will be fine?
Regress to the mean or return to the mean?
Regress.
Right. Yeah. That kind of idea.
Regress means like they're overperforming and they're gonna go down.
Water always finds its level. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's gonna get to a point where it should be. Right? There's always gonna be that surprise team. There's always gonna be the team that is good when people weren't expecting him to, or bad when people were expecting him to be good. But in general, you're gonna get what you expect, especially in a league like the NBA where it's very star driven, excluding injury, of course.
And I mean, the Grizzlies are right up there on top, just as I predicted. Who did we say was going to have a better...
The Trailblazers.
Trailblazers? They currently have a better record than Trailblazers, so...
How are the Timberwolves doing?
Timberwolves, 3-3.
Like I said, it doesn't matter.
Grizzlies are 4-3, though. Hey, that's above 500.
It's true.
True.
It is above 500.
It's a 571 win percentage.
Is that all you got for...
I told you I don't have that much for basketball.
Let's move on to football now.
I got you. There were two really big stories, kind of three. There was the Washington football team investigation, which we have sort of scratched the surface of over the past couple of weeks with the John Gruden investigation and all that. Congress got involved. All that stuff surrounding it. It's been going on in the background for like a year or so now. It's a big issue. I don't know how to properly talk about it. I got the updates, just keeping up to date with it. There were a couple things this week. There were the trade deadline. That is coming up 4 o'clock today. There were a few major moves, and there were a lot of injuries this week. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do Derrick Henry first.
Injuries, got it.
Yeah.
Start with that one. Like you mentioned, Derrick Henry got hurt. He hurt his foot against the Colts this week. He is out for the rest. He is presumably out for the rest of the season. He's getting surgery on his injured foot. It's a shame. He was having an incredible season. He was almost at 1,000 yards in just 8 games. That is an insane clip. He's carried the ball 219 times already. That is just so much wear and tear on a guy like that. Especially with a big physical runner like he is. That's the reason that people say you can't pay running backs. Because they get hurt. I mean, you look at Saquon, you look at McCaffrey. I mean, they haven't paid Saquon yet, but they paid McCaffrey. He's been hurt. You got to do it with a guy like Henry when he's your entire team offense. And the Titans had a really team-friendly deal with him. But it all came crashing down, which is a shame because he really is an insane player. And I wish him the best. I wish him speedy recovery. He'll be back next season, dominating the league again. Go for it.
Speaking of which, they signed Adrian Peterson.
They did sign Adrian
to
Peterson.
help out with that. And Adrian Peterson had his best season after coming back from torn ACL.
Yeah.
So.
And that was insane. That was at a time where a torn ACL still usually meant a career-ending injury.
Yeah.
That was almost 10 years ago at this point.
And this seems less bad than that, right?
I don't know exactly what it is. All I know is that it's a foot injury. But science has the surgery.
Modern medicine's phenomenal.
It's advanced so much even in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, ACL injuries used to be 2 years or more or career-ending. Now they're just a 1-year injury and you're back better than ever.
Yeah.
You know? It's crazy how they do that in just such a short amount of time.
Alex Smith came back from that awful leg injury.
That ended Theismann's career 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot longer than a 10-year period, but you see what I mean.
Yeah.
He should be fine.
Yeah.
Theoretically. You never know. You really never know, but he should be fine. More injuries. Jabril Pepper, safety of the New York Giants, tore his ACL, out for the season. Huge part of the Giants. He was a captain, a locker room leader.
Part of that Odell deal, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. It sucks, but he'll be back soon. Again, we just talked about it. Modern medicine, stuff like that. J.J. Watt also having season-ending shoulder surgery. He played an entire game with this shoulder injury. Excuse me. He played an entire game with this shoulder injury, which insane grit and toughness. Go for it.
No, nothing.
He seems like the type of guy who could play through that
Right.
stuff. He's massive.
No, it's crazy, the people that do that.
It's just unfortunate because it seems like he's always injured, and even he's like in his prime, he's unstoppable, and it's just a shame that he keeps on not being able to play because of injuries.
Right. Yeah, no, it's sad. Injuries do that to people's career. Jameis Winston also tore his ACL. He's done for the season.
I didn't realize he was done for the season.
Torn ACL, man. You don't come back from that in the season.
I didn't know it was a torn ACL.
Yeah, tore his ACL. He was
Brutal.
dancing in the locker room after the game on a torn ACL. He had his crutches. He was kind of waving them around.
That's healthy.
Might as well
enjoy the win while you can.
Exactly.
You beat the Bucks.
They beat
That's
the
a big
Bucks.
win.
Yeah. Daniil Hunter of the Vikings. He's going to miss the rest of the season with a torn pec. He got hurt against the Cowboys Sunday night. Major part of their defensive line, pressure. You need that pressure to do anything in the league. You can't have your corners covering for 7-8 seconds. They're not going to be able to do
Corners
that.
can't cover anyway. Okay, yeah.
Right, no corner. Not even the best corner in the league can consistently cover for 7-8 seconds.
Yeah.
You need to get pressure on the quarterback.
Especially when you have corners like the Vikings have.
They're not that bad. They're not.
Yeah, you're right. The defense has actually been pretty good these past few weeks. It's the offense that hasn't been living up to expectations. Let's just get my Vikings depression rant out of the way.
Go for it.
They lost to the Cowboys. Very frustrating game to watch because this offense has potential to do really well. We got our first-round pick back. What's Brig? He was in
Brigashaw or something
Brigashaw.
like that?
That's it.
Something like that.
He played well. It's just that they just can't come up with the plays when we need them. It's just like Kirk just
can't trust him in prime time.
Yeah, he was wasn't leading receivers, couldn't get the play call right. Dalvin Cook played fine. It's just the passing offense wasn't there. And it's all on Kirk Cousins. And I was trying to give Kirk the benefit of the doubt, but this game has showed me.
I wouldn't say it's all on Kirk Cousins. I really wouldn't.
It's just that it's so frustrating. This team has potential. At least the offense. Offensively, we have two really good wide receivers. Dalvin Cook is one of the best running backs in the league. And it's just, I know this offense can do better. I've seen them put up the points before. And it's just frustrating when I see them not do it.
Right. That's completely understandable.
And then we went against the Dallas Cowboys and a backup quarterback. That should have been a winnable game.
It was a winnable game. You were in it to
yeah.
the end.
And we just find ways to lose.
Right. Bad teams do that.
Yeah. I'm so frustrated with this team to the point where I think we should just rebuild everything. It's just, this is not the team that's gonna, we got to start over.
Right. Yeah. It's tough to do. But you got to know when. You got to pounce on your opportunity because you never know when you're gonna hold on to for too long or also blowing up too early. That's a big problem. You don't want to blow up with your core still intact. I think the Vikings are close. I don't think they need to do a complete overhaul. I think they just need to make a few minor fixes, to their defense. And I think they need to try and upgrade quarterback.
That's going to be hard to do.
Kirk Cousins is serviceable. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback. He's better than average. I wouldn't. He's average to better than average. He's never bad. But if you want to contend, you need a quarterback that is better than slightly better than average. You know.
Or your team just has to be that stacked.
Which they kind of are. I
don't know. It's just something needs to be done. I don't know what. Because
Maybe
whenever
retooling, not a rebuild.
That's the word.
Or maybe a new head coach scene change. Like
They
maybe
do
like a
need- they
new
do need
perspective.
They do need to fire Mike Zimmer.
It's like something needs to happen. They either gotta, if you're gonna keep Zimmer, he's got to start over. Or I just prefer we just get rid of the guy because clearly he's been the coach for long enough. It hasn't worked. This team needs like a change of scenery.
Another Calvin Ridley, not really an injury thing. He stepped away from the team for mental issues. He hasn't been playing his best. He just said, hey, I need to figure myself out right now. I love my teammates, love the coaches, not anything you guys did. I need to figure myself out. Stepped away from the team. He's out indefinitely. That's not a season ender. That is a...
Personal leave.
That's personal. That's a personal thing. We don't know how long it's going to take. He's a special talent at receiver. Hopefully he gets the help he needs.
Yeah.
That's what I got for the injury kind of thing.
Good for him.
Yeah, definitely.
It takes a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the trade deadline. There weren't a lot of big moves, so to say. Fun little thing real quick before we get to the big news of the trade deadline. Mark Ingram was traded back to the Saints. Mark Ingram started his career with the Saints, is career rushing, one of the top 3 in most rushing stats in Saints history. And he has a special connection with that locker room. You see Mark Ingram come out at press conferences, the Ravens, and love the dude. Funny guy. I think he's my favorite non-Giant, actually. But he's just a glue guy in that locker room. And
it seemed like he was like so hyped to be back in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
Too. Like you saw him run, and he was like pulling off the spin moves, and he just looked so energetic to be back.
And I think he has a special. I think it really showed in that game against the Bucks how big of a difference a guy like him can make.
Oh yeah.
Even if he's not making a massive difference numbers wise, just morale. You know, you need that.
Especially when you're gonna have an uncertain quarterback situation going forward.
Right. And then the super big news came out today. The Rams and the Broncos had a little bit of chat. They decided to make a little bit of a trade. The Broncos are sending one of their best players of all time, Von Miller.
No way.
Over to the Rams for a 2nd and a 3rd round pick in the 2022 draft.
That's it?
You don't get a lot for players draft capital. You don't. It's weird. You'd think you'd get more, but you can really...
Von Miller only gets a 2nd and a 3rd?
I know, right? It's insane. It really is.
I mean, hasn't he been like really injury prone these last few years, or?
He's been healthy this year. He put in perspective what he's done. He's been on the Broncos in 10 seasons.
Yeah.
He has 110.5 sacks in 10 seasons. That's 11 sacks a season. That's insane numbers.
Yeah.
That's with injuries and stuff. So he's not playing all those seasons.
I just don't know how healthy he's been.
He's been healthy this year. He was healthy at the end of last year. So he should be fine. He's joining a Rams team that is very good. Adding that to their defense.
Sam Darnold on top. That's going to be scary.
Think about this defense real quick for me. All 3 levels now. You have your front. Maybe the best defensive player of all time, Aaron Donald. Terrifying. Then you go into the secondary. One of, if not the best secondary player in the league, Jalen Ramsey. And then you travel inside to those linebacker core, you know? And who do you see now? Oh, that's my good friend Von Miller. That is a scary defense. That defense is going to be so good. I mean, that's massive.
Because he's like an edge rusher.
He's an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
So he has the ability to rush the quarterback on a blitz.
Yeah.
But he also kind of like the linebacker, for lack of a better term, is the quarterback of the defense.
Yeah.
So that's a massive piece right there. He's calling the plays, he's getting the defense set, and he's like, he's doing a bunch of stuff. He's covering tight ends.
I love how the Rams are pretty much just like, who needs prospects? Just use all your picks to draft players who are good right now.
Right, that's a certain approach.
That's so entertaining.
You can either say, hey, I want to draft, or you can say, hey, I don't know about these players in college. I don't know if they're going to be great. You know who I know is going to be great?
Current NFL
Von
players.
Miller is going to be great. And I like that idea. I love that approach. I think it's awesome. I really do. I really do. And at this point, I would just like to remind everyone that you are listening to Triple Threat on WXJM Harrisonburg Radio 88.7 and WXJM.org.
Wow.
What's up?
I said, wow.
I know, right? I'm Jeremy, joined by my two friends and co-host,
Shane
and
Haden.
And I would like to continue my football coverage with the things that I saw in the games that I thought were pretty cool. We mentioned it really quickly, the Saints game. Jameis Winston was hurt. We had the return of Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian, for people who don't know, Broncos quarterback for a while, not very good. He beat the Bucs. I don't know what Brady has. I don't know why Brady can't figure out the Saints defense. He struggled against them last year in the regular season. Like, struggled. And, I mean, he didn't look too much better this year. I honestly don't know what it is.
Didn't most of his points come in garbage time, too?
Not really.
Because he still put up, what, it was like 27?
I mean, it was a close game,
Yeah.
but he didn't look that great. Like,
He
for
had, like,
whatever
2
reason,
turnovers.
he threw a pick six to end the game. But for whatever reason, they just can't. He can't figure it out for some reason. I don't know what it is. Everybody's got that team that they can't figure it out against. But I don't know.
Mine's all of them.
I mean, what?
No, I just like how you're laughing and Shane just stares at me.
Oh yeah,
Like
no.
it was the least funny thing I've ever said.
He was thinking about it. He was thinking real close. He's like,
It's like, wait a second.
Hmm.
He's never been an NFL quarterback before.
Speaking of NFL quarterbacks, Mike White. Who would have guessed it? Who would have thunk it? Not me.
Not me.
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly.
That's kind of the point.
Mike White, Jets quarterback, threw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Oh my god.
400. This was his NFL debut.
Who needs Wilson?
Exactly.
Just start this guy.
This man single-handedly. He also caught a 2-point conversion, so like, go off, Mike White. Can we talk about how boring that name is? Can he have a better name?
Better than Michael White.
Better than Mike White, yes. I would appreciate if he had a better name than Mike White. I'm gonna be
No,
honest.
I'm saying it's better than Michael White.
Is it?
I think so.
Is it?
No, I like Michael White better.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Because
Agree
Mike
to
White,
disagree.
it doesn't roll off the tongue well. Like
It's just
Michael
so
White, at least it's more to say.
boring.
Mike
Yeah.
White, it's
Man.
2 syllables, that's good for chance. 3 syllables, it's kind of awkward, You need to even them out.
Sure. But like, is he better than Zach Wilson? He's 1-0. Zach Wilson,
Less turnovers too.
1-5. He threw 2 interceptions, but like,
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
we didn't
interception
mention
problem.
that. Doesn't matter. 2
Yeah.
interceptions.
He got the win.
He got more touchdowns than
He has as
interceptions.
many wins as
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
It's crazy like that, It's crazy like that. The Lions and the Eagles. Gosh, the
Eagles
Lions.
smoked them.
I am so sorry, Lions fans. Look, I mean, let me look at your schedule real quick.
They've dealt with this for years. But
Yeah, but like, I thought if they were going to get a win, it's going to be this week. I'm going to be honest. I don't really see another place where they can get a win very easily unless it's against the Falcons, which is like almost the very end of the season. Or maybe the Vikings. They might be able to beat the Vikings.
At this point, why not?
But I mean, the Lions. I really thought this was going to be their game. It's not. I really didn't like the Eagles, but I guess the Lions are going to lion. You know, they're going to lose 44-6 against the Eagles.
I mean, you got to give credit to where credit's due.
Right.
Who's the quarterback again?
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. He's talented, so
Right.
I could definitely see him putting up points like that. And then you had Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just like that. They got weapons.
Right. Cards Packers. Cardinals, last undefeated team. Not anymore. They probably should have won that game, but unfortunately, AJ Green decided, no, I don't want to catch the ball right now. I'm gonna not look at you.
He forgot to look over his shoulder.
He was like playing the silent. He was like playing he was giving him the cold shoulder kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray was like, "Oh, you're wide open." He was open. If he turned around,
easily catchable.
It's a game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
Instead, that's a game-losing interception.
It was one of the weirdest plays I've seen at the last
Super
second.
fun, crazy end to the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, no more undefeated teams. There is a winless team. And that's a shame for the Lions. We don't need to talk about them anymore because that's just a little sad.
We don't really need to dig the knife deeper.
Nah. Rookie performances, Justin Fields. He played his first really good game. Wasn't enough to beat the Niners because Deebo Samuel went off. And Jimmy Garoppolo decided to turn into Lamar Jackson and run for 2 touchdowns.
Or beginning of the season, Sam Darnold.
Heck yeah. Absolutely. You know it. But he ran for 2 touchdowns there. That's not a Jimmy Garoppolo thing.
That was an insane run by Fields, though.
Oh yeah, no, that's
sick play.
Absolutely. No, he played really good. And if he keeps playing like this, I think the Bears have a really solid quarterback.
Oh yeah.
Down the line. Maybe not this year, but next year I can see them really doing things.
To the detriment of
the Vikings?
The Vikings, yeah. Because then who knows what Aaron Rodgers is doing, but if we have to face that every year, could be very frustrating for me.
And finally, I'd like to wrap up the NFL segment with my New York Giants, who played Monday night. It was a really good game. The defense played their hearts out, and they played an excellent game. They turned the Chiefs over 2 or 3 times. They held them to 20 points. They didn't let them score a touchdown the entire second half. That's crazy. They held them to 6 points in the second half. It was a very, very nicely played game on the defense. The offense, on the other hand, I know they're hurt. I know they're banged up. There's no excuse for how they played. They didn't get Daniel Jones out in space. He's not exactly a running quarterback, but he's a quarterback that can run. You know? They didn't get the read option going. And the offensive line didn't provide protection against, honestly, a really weak Chiefs defense. A secondary that is maybe the worst in the entire league. And they could not move the ball. The receivers couldn't get space. They couldn't get separation. It was honestly a poor performance on offense. There's nothing more you can say to that. When they get healthier, and when Jason Garrett decides to call plays that aren't run up the middle, throw a slant, run up the middle, when he decides to add a little spice to his play calls, maybe they can do something. But until then, their offense looks like trash. It really does. There's no excuse for how the offense played this week. Hopefully they can turn it around next week. But they played a really good game. If the defense can play like this every single week, I really think they could win a lot more games. Got the Raiders next week. That's a team they could beat. It's also a team they could lose to. Like, badly. So, we'll see how that goes.
Options.
That's what I got for football.
All right.
Shane, take us into hockey to do your thing.
So, I'm going to go over the general news, and then we're going to go very in depth with the Kyle Beach situation because I got a lot to say about that. But to get some of the other news out of the way, Cole Caulfield, this year's projected Calder Trophy winner, got sent down to the AHL this year. This doesn't surprise me because, I don't know, it's just kind of, I always had this gut feeling with him. It's just like, yeah, he's terrific talent, but he's got to adjust to the NHL game because he's really undersized. He's like 5'7", 160 pounds, and he's got to get used to playing with professional men. Because in college, yeah, you can. He won the Hobie Baker Award, which is pretty much the Heisman for ice hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, terrific goal scorer, but it's nothing similar to the NHL. We're facing like grown men, best in the world.
Haden, are you a professional man?
Jury's still out.
In Montreal, they've looked awful. Like, everyone knew that they were not going to be good after their Stanley Cup run because they lost Shea Weber. They don't have Price,
Obviously.
and they lost a lot of players in free agency.
For
So
sure.
Caulfield's had in 20 regular season games, he has 6 points, 4 of which are goals. This year, it's 1 assist in 10 games. But in the playoffs, 12 points in 20 games. You've seen flashes of it. I think it's best for his development that he got sent down. And this should be great because I think Montreal should rebuild, and that's going to be good for that. Morgan Riley of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the defenseman, got an 8-year, $60 million extension, AAV of 7.5. This is a really good team-friendly deal. Because like this season, a bunch of defensemen were getting paid $9 million, 9.5, and he is a really good defenseman, number 1 defenseman for the Leafs. Like, this is a really good deal, especially for their salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
He was a 5th overall pick in 2012. He's been on a staple on their blue line. Like, I feel like this guy's been in the league forever, but he's only 27 years old. He's like been playing this ever since like really young age. And 581 games. He has 59 goals, 251 assists, 310 points. Like, this is a great deal. Takes him through his prime. He's going to be part of the Maple Leafs forever. Probably going to go down as one of their greatest defensemen of all time. And hopefully that core can like make a playoff run at some point.
Right.
And then the big extension, Adam Fox, last year's Norris Trophy winner, best defenseman in the league. At 23 years old, he signed a 7-year, $66.5 million extension with an AAV of 9.5. So another one to the list of defensemen who got bang for their contract extension. As we stated before, was voted to be the best defenseman in the league. 47 points in 55 games played. What?
Do you not think he was the best defenseman in the league?
I thought Cale Makar should have got it,
All
but
right.
I'm not upset by it. It was just like, it was like a coin toss between the two. I think Cale Makar is definitely more physically gifted, but Adam Fox had a great season.
All right.
Just very elusive defenseman, smart decision making, great hands, can stick handle his way out of a phone booth. Good on the power
I
play.
love
He's
that.
going to put a lot of.
I love that.
This
saying.
imagery that you're providing
I really
is
love
really helping out.
That's like a pretty common hockey saying.
I think
Yeah.
that's hilarious. I
He's
love
got
that.
nice hands. Be a hand model. Anyways.
Where was I?
Adam Fox.
So yeah, in 134 games, he has 98 points.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah, surprisingly few games played because he's had an interesting road to the NHL because he was a 3rd-round pick from the Calgary Flames, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Calgary was thinking, oh, we have an absolute steal. But this guy was like, I'm not going to sign a entry-level deal with you guys. I'm just going to stay in college and graduate from Harvard. And then Calgary was
Smart
like,
man.
all right, well, might as well trade this guy. Some team's going to want him. So they traded him to Carolina in the huge Dougie Hamilton, Elias Lindholm trade. And then Carolina was like, yo, do you want to sign with us? And Adam Fox was like, I really don't want to sign with you guys either. I'm staying at Harvard. And Carolina was like, all right, well, who do you want to sign with? The New York Rangers. And they were like, hey, New York, this talented prospects will only sign with you. So if you want him sooner, give us some draft picks. So they gave him like a second, and then Adam Fox signs with the Rangers.
All right, then.
After he graduates. So here he is. Really paid off for the Rangers there.
Right.
And after speed running through all of that, we get to the main story of the week, which is the tragic, unfortunate tale of Kyle Beach. So, Kyle Beach was a 2008 first-round pick, 11th overall, the Chicago Blackhawks. In the 2010 Stanley Cup Final, he was called up as a black ace, healthy scratch, just to be with the team, just in case there was injuries, and he was there to play. During that time, the video coach forced and offered sexual favors and threatened him getting kicked off the team in exchange. So, in the investigation, there's been a lot of conflicting stories, but the story is the video coach sexually assaulted him, and Brad Aldrich, the video coach who's being accused. Let me finish the story and then we can get into all the details. So they end up. So Kyle Beach, of course, reports it to the higher authorities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all of the members of the Blackhawk organization, the head coach, general manager, they get into a meeting and they're like, "What should we do about this?" And then allegedly the head coach was against doing anything because this team is in a deep playoff run. We can't address this because it will be a distraction. So they prioritized the Stanley Cup over the sake of another player's well-being.
That's not okay.
So they win the cup. Amongst the Blackhawks didn't do an investigation whatsoever. So amongst knowing this person had potentially sexually assaulted some member of the team, and also he was reported to sexually assault an intern during the Stanley Cup celebration.
Mm.
And so the Blackhawks gave him the ultimatum. They pretty much let him off easy. They're like, "Hey, we are either going to investigate you, or you could just leave." And so he left. His name is still on the cup, despite all of this going on too. Hopefully that will get changed. And he was even given a recommendation by Joe Quenneville to his next job in the University of Miami of Ohio.
Mm.
And then later he goes to federal prison for sexually assaulting a 16-year-old when he got a job coaching a high school team.
Well, I'm glad he's there.
So this guy is a registered sex offender, and even though all of this is hearsay, there's no solid proof, but it's looking really bad for the Blackhawks that this repeat sex offender has gotten away with this. And then I heard from the Staffing Graph podcast that Kyle Beach is one of the first 11th overall picks to have never played an NHL game in the past 50 years. So they directly screwed this guy's development because they did nothing to address it. And to make matters even worse, after he left the organization, Blackhawks teammates made fun of this guy for what happened to him. Teammates allegedly mocked him. They called him slurs, the slur that starts with an F, and have quoted saying he was missing his boyfriend, Brad. This is absolutely awful.
Mm-hmm.
And current players are still on that roster. Duncan Keith, who was recently traded away, is not making a comment. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane. Jonathan Toews even went as far to say he still supports Stan Bowman and thinks he's a great person. Which is not the case, because he let this happen under his watch. They prioritized winning a Stanley Cup over protecting one of his fellow teammates. And ice hockey is a team about camaraderie, and you just left a man behind. It was not worth winning a Stanley Cup to let that man suffer and ruining his entire career. That man could still be an NHL player. But because they screwed up him mentally, like this guy, who knows what this guy could have done?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a first-round pick. He definitely had the talent, but because of what happened, he couldn't live up to his full potential. And the Blackhawks and the NHL have had ridiculous response to this. Stan Bowman shouldn't have had the chance to resign. He should have gotten fired. Joe Quenneville was still coaching an NHL game when all of this came out. He should have been fired immediately, should not have gotten the chance to resign. And Stan Bowman's apology was unacceptable. Like, not even an I'm sorry or taking accountability for anything. At least Joe Quenneville in his statement had some sort of apology and intention of reflection. And Stan Bowman also stepped down from the Olympic team. And unfortunately, the assistant general manager of the Olympic team, Bill Guerin, he is still currently under investigation for covering up sexual assault for the Pittsburgh Penguins of the Wilkes-Barre team, the AHL affiliate. And one of the candidates to replace Stan Bowman as general manager of the Chicago Blackhawks is Jim Rutherford, again, general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins, who is also allegedly covering up sexual assault allegations within the Wilkes-Barre organization. There are so many things wrong in the NHL right now, up at the top. There's a lot of stuff they're hiding. And hopefully Kyle Beach will help players come forward and that we see a culture change, because this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have waited 10 years for this to happen. And then the NHLPA, apparently he reported it to the NHLPA, and they did nothing about it. They got lost in the pipeline or whatever. It is ridiculous.
I mean, they did not get lost in the pipeline.
What?
He reported this to the NHLPA, and then the PA, I don't know what happened. Nothing happened because of it.
Right.
The NHL failed this player at every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's one of the things that, as a society, men getting sexually assaulted, has been a thing that's kind of been a tough issue, especially in those macho man type, you got to be an alpha male type environments that sports usually are. And so, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
It's
that,
so
it kind of just especially by his own teammates.
That was one of the worst things I ever saw about this. And as someone who's been around the hockey community, that does not surprise me whatsoever, unfortunately. It's still there's still parts of hockey where it's very toxic.
Yeah.
So, and it's incredibly brave what he's done. Coming out about your sexual assault case is an extremely tough thing to do. His interview on TSN, extremely emotional, one of the saddest things I've seen. He's taken so much responsibility for what's happened. He feels so ashamed he felt like he didn't do enough to protect that 16-year-old boy who got sexually assaulted. And to have him have that guilt weigh on him for something that's completely not his fault is so heartbreaking to watch.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He apologized before anyone else in the NHL did. That is unacceptable. People should be fired. The Blackhawks should have gotten more than a $2 million fine. This entire situation. And then one of the Kevin Cheveldayoff, he's the current he was part of the organization for the Chicago Blackhawks. He's still the current general manager of the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
I don't know how that can still be allowed for what he's done. This entire week has pissed me off.
Right.
It's gotten me so emotional. I'm so upset. So many emotions. So much needs to be done to improve this.
Absolutely. We have the groundwork laid here. Can we talk about the fallout of, now that the information is out, however late it is, there is still some kind of fallout. You mentioned it throughout your covering of the topic. I just want to talk about the fallout of everyone here. You mentioned the coach, Joel Quenneville. He has, as you mentioned, resigned from the Panthers. GM of the Blackhawks, Bowman, also, as you mentioned, resigned. At the very end of that, I mentioned the Jets GM. There's no discipline action taken against him. Fill me in on this a little more. I'm not exactly sure what his role was in this whole thing, but the NHL has deemed that it wasn't bad enough, which is an awful way to say that.
He was still a part of
Right.
the organization.
I just don't have a better way of explaining this.
Well, what was his role in the organization?
He was one of the executives. He was like something along the lines of like maybe assistant general manager, or
Okay. Yeah.
like director of hockey operations, like one of those executive roles.
Okay.
Executive player development. So he was allegedly in that meeting where they decided they weren't going to investigate Brad Aldrich. They were just going to continue on with the playoffs.
Okay.
And I want to stress that this is still a developing story.
Yeah.
There's still information coming out. There's still people that are being handed punishments. There's still so much to uncover in this story. We have barely scratched the surface with this. The NHLPA, as of today, is going to vote on whether or not an outside investigation is needed.
Which
It's dumb that they even have to vote on this.
Yeah.
There should absolutely be an outside investigation, but it's something. It's something that's starting, and there's going to be more updates next week, and as time goes on. But as Shane said so eloquently, it is unacceptable. This can't.
And it's a shame that the current Blackhawks players who are there have not said any more about it. Even being defensive of previous management.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable.
I think something that summarizes the whole thing so just beautifully, but it's also awful. Where you remember how we were talking before the show, and how the Devils, for signing that player to a ridiculous extension, they got a $3 million fine for that.
Yeah.
But the Blackhawks got a $2 million fine.
Yeah. Because they cared more about money than they did a player's mental well-being.
Yeah. Like, sexual assault is less severe than giving a player too long of a contract.
Yeah. For paying a guy too much.
It's
a shame. It really is.
Yeah, especially for guys where there's a huge double standard in reporting sexual assault cases. Like, it's got to be so demasculated. It's brutal.
Just in general.
Because in toxic sports communities, like, they're going to give you so much more. Like, the fact that his teammate, I still can't get over, his teammates gave him a hard time about it. Like, when your brothers are supposed to have your back, they beat him to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So unbelievable.
It really is a sad story.
Hopefully there's more developments.
There absolutely should. There should be an investigation. I believe the NHL is doing one right now. Just an internal one. There's no... The NHLPA, like I mentioned, is trying to do an external one. Which is... You don't want any bias in something as serious as this. Yeah. Of course, Gary Bettman had to speak on this. He said very simply, the league's goal is to do what is necessary to continue to move forward. Which is not the greatest thing to say in that situation.
It's like no apology for what happened.
Yeah, there's no admission of fault. There's no, hey, we messed up. We will do everything we can to fix this. All he said was, we're gonna move on. Forget this ever happened. Absolutely not the right move. Hopefully, they figure this out.
We're definitely going to see more of this story come out throughout these coming weeks, and we'll report on.
Absolutely.
I know the show's about to end here, but before we wrap things up, if you're a victim of sexual assault, please don't be afraid to reach out. Like, as part of the Triple Threat group, we are here to help you. There's a wide community out there who are more than willing to support you. It's there's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not your fault. If this has happened to you, we encourage you to speak out if you feel comfortable, and we are here for you. And
Thank you, Shane.
to Kyle Beach, we are so sorry if you hear this, we're so sorry this happened to you. We are here for you, and we are here to bring out change.
Thank you, Shane. From Triple Threat and WXGM, I've been Jeremy, joined by Shane and Haden on Triple Threat. Good night.